Kremlin blogger Anastasia Kashevarova revealed that Russian soldiers diagnosed with lung cancer and pulmonary embolism after serving in Operation Stream received only approximately $1,200 in compensation, were denied medals and official recognition, and are now excluded from any further benefits. Operation Stream, also called Operation Pipe, was a March 8, 2025 military raid in which Russian special forces for several days crawled through the disused gas pipeline to attack Ukrainian positions from the rear during the Kursk counteroffensive, forcing a Ukrainian retreat near Sudzha, Kursk region. According to Kashevarova, participants in the operation began suffering severe respiratory ailments, yet in Kursk hospitals they were told they had only acute bronchitis of moderate severity, 100,000 rubles or approximately $1,200 compensation for lung cancer and no medals, and for some this pseudo-bronchitis progressed to lung cancer, pulmonary embolism. She wrote in her Telegram channel, adding that every soldier who entered the pipeline suffered lung damage and that some died underground. Kashevarova further criticized the Defense Ministry's refusal to classify these conditions as military injuries or serious combat wounds, a stance that strips veterans and their families of compensation or social benefits. Even relatives of the deceased, she said, cannot claim payments because official records list lung cancer, pulmonary embolism or acute bronchitis rather than combat trauma. She blamed the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces for shirking responsibility, accusing them of behaving undignifiedly by effectively denying "we didn't send them there" and leaving veterans to fight for recognition on their own. Recall, Russian leadership does not recognize this disease as serious or a military injury, and therefore does not award soldiers with compensation. Also, none of the soldiers who tried to enter Sudzha through the pipe were awarded awards. What is this for? Why did you approve the pipe? Why did they sacrifice? What are you doing? Who is against awards and payments for Potok fighters in the General Staff? Maybe they are ready to set a personal example and spend at least a couple of days in a gas pipe? The propagandist wrote angrily. It is worth recalling that in March 2025, the Russians attempted to penetrate Sudzha through the Urengoy-Pomary-Uzhgorod gas pipeline into the city's territory and attack the positions of the Ukrainian armed forces in the Kursk region. Russian propagandists call this Operation Stream. According to Ukrainian data, most of the Russian military were destroyed as a result of this operation.
Ukrainian military captured 2 Cameroonian citizens who fought against Ukraine on the side of the Russian aggressor. This was reported on the Facebook page of the 20th Separate Regiment of Unmanned Systems K2. The representatives of the African country were captured by fighters of the K2 battalion together with the 118th Territorial Defense Brigade and 2 other battalions of the 54th Separate Mechanized Brigade, the 1st Rifle and the 1st Mechanized. The captured Cameroonians claim that they went to Russia to make shampoo and get dental treatment. However, at the airport of the Russian capital they were met not as saviors from fat and dandruff, but as cheap substitutes for combat vankas. The heroes of our video Metuhina Unana Jean Paif and Anatole Frank understood that they were dressed in swamp uniforms not for planting turnips, but both signed a contract, the report says. These citizens of a Central African country claim that they were heading for Russia to make shampoo and get dental treatment. However, they were welcomed at the airport of the Russian capital not as saviors from grease and dandruff, but as cheap substitutes for Russian cannon fodder. They were fully aware that they were not being dressed in swamp uniforms to plant turnips, but both signed contracts under which they were promised 1,100,000 Russian rubles or approximately $13,990. This is substantially less than the regime offers its own citizens, though still decent money for Cameroon, the report says. One of the captured Cameroonians said that he was a teacher and had come to Russia to get his teeth treated. However, upon arrival in Russia, he and several other people were taken to the Migration Service Office, where they took their fingerprints and a jaw cast. Anatole Frank noted that he did not want to sign a contract with the Russian Defense Ministry, but he was not allowed to go back. We arrived at 8 a.m., they released us at 4 p.m. When we came out, there were 2 soldiers. There was a car outside, they put us in it. They took me to an unknown destination. We traveled for almost 2 days. We arrived at a building where they locked us in for 2 more days. It was a building of about 11 floors. A few days later, they dressed us in military uniforms and said, "You are joining the army." I said I wanted to go back, but they made me sign a contract, he claims. According to him, when he got to the front, he was ordered to go forward and 3 days later he was captured. It is noted that when he got to the Ukrainian military and they were going to transport him, ammunition was dropped on them. Another Cameroonian explains the signing of the contract by financial factors. Both prisoners claim that they did not kill anyone. They expressed a desire to return to Cameroon, not to Russia.
На Сіверському напрямку було взято 2 полонених з країни
Камерун.
Bonjour.
Мене звати Метугина Унана Жан Пафе. Мене звати Анатоль Франк. Я військовополонений. Родом з Камеруну. Я приїхав в Москву в березні. Я викладач у Камеруні. Я мав працювати на фабриці шампунів. Я приїхав лікувати зуби. У мене забрали документи і речі. Я поставив підпис. За 1 100 000 рублів. Пролунав сильний вибух. Я побачив кров знизу. Повзли на колінах у підвал. 2 українців, що вели мене, отримали поранення.
The Security Service of Ukraine and the Special Operations Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine struck the Russian airfield of Marinovka in the Volgograd region, which is located approximately 900 kilometers from the territory controlled by Ukraine. During the operation, 2 Su-34s were destroyed and 2 more were damaged. Russian propagandist fighter bomber on Telegram confirms the strike on the airfield with tactical aircraft. There is no point in commenting on anything. Another multi-billion-dollar loss that could and should have been prevented. And it would be nice if not only the idiots were held accountable for it. There is someone to work with here. Otherwise, it will continue like this. I am sure that we will respond to this with a bunch of angry and decisive telegrams, he writes. It should be noted that on June the 27th, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine and the Security Service of Ukraine reported on the operation of the Defense Forces against enemy aircraft, during which the Marinovka airfield in the Volgograd region was hit with drones. As a result of this attack, 2 Su-34s were destroyed and 2 more such aircraft were damaged. In addition, the Ukrainian military struck a place where the occupiers serviced and repaired military aircraft. A fire broke out at this facility. The Su-34, a twin-engine, all-weather supersonic fighter bomber, is one of Russia's primary platforms for launching guided bomb and missile strikes against Ukrainian targets. These aircraft have been regularly used to drop gliding bombs equipped with correction and guidance modules, making them a persistent threat to both military positions and civilian areas. The Marinovka airbase is located deep within Russian territory, and the strike indicates Ukraine's increasing capability to hit high-value military targets far beyond the immediate combat zone. Whether conducted via long-range drones, sabotage, or hybrid means, such operations signal a shift in Ukraine's strategy to degrade the rear support infrastructure of the Russian Air Force. The attack also underscores the growing vulnerabilities of Russian air assets, even within supposedly secure regions. Any disruption to the Su-34 operations may have a tangible effect on the scale and frequency of Russian airstrikes along the front. As of now, the extent of the damage and the precise outcome of the strike are still being assessed. However, this operation reflects a broader trend: Ukraine's growing willingness and capability to take the fight to Russian territory and degrade the assets, enabling Moscow's continued war of aggression.